Well, welcome to another episode of Rim Shots with Sean, right here on the Rock Rage Radio Network, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. I got a couple of friends here that, this business is very funny how you meet people. It's always the 6 degrees of separation. I'm currently meeting them for the first time because I connected with their PR person. I've got Heather and St. Marie, and I've got Matt Dauzat from Dauzat St. Marie. Welcome, boys and girls.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And we found out when we were kind of trying to get all this geared up that there's a connection to the East Coast of Canada with you guys.
Yep. We, like most people, did the deep dive into the ancestry a couple years back. I grew up in South Louisiana. He grew up in North Louisiana, but we both have French ties, and it's French Canadian, a lot of ancestry. They spent generations there, and then we're part of that group that left and ended up in Louisiana.
You guys kicked us out, is what happened. Y'all kicked us out. We're like, all right, we're going to go down to Louisiana and create a party scene.
Well, there you go. And I actually play in a band with two guys that are Acadian French. We call it Acadie. So they'll love that because they're very proud Acadian French people. So Shauna sends me your info, and I'm going to let you guys kind of explain the background. You guys have a very, very, very unique musical background. Matt, maybe why don't you start?
Well, she and I got started. I think I was like 18 when I first met her, and we in North Louisiana, and we started a band together, rock band, and started touring regionally, and that kind of grew and grew and grew. We started going out to Hollywood to play shows. Like, we were just kids. We, didn't have great responsibilities. So we would just go to Hollywood and play shows, and just really started building, we're building our audience, but we're also building our network. And that led to a lot of opportunities that ultimately, when we finally decided we needed to move to Los Angeles, that very week, I got picked to be Kelly Osbourne's guitar player. Literally just days after arriving. We were still unpacking. And,
life's pretty hard for you, Matt. Jeez.
It's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's, a lot of people are like, wow, it's like overnight success. It's like, yeah, but I was busting hump for years and years. We were touring in her Ford Explorer, for so many years. So that does a number on your knees. But anyway, yeah, so moved out, and Kelly Osbourne was the first gig, like days after. First show was Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Shipped out to London that night and did a massive tour with Robbie Williams for 3 months, and so that's kind of the start of our music career, and it's a trajectory that's kept going to this day. Thank goodness.
I wanted to ask you, kind of a little off topic, but did you see the movie that Jason Hook did, Hired Gun?
Oh, we just saw it like 2 nights ago.
2 nights ago.
Yeah. So I've got a bit. So I watched that before I started my podcast when it came out, and my thing was, so I know Phil X because I lived in Toronto for a few years. But Jason Hook's story, I'm going to guess, is a little bit similar, maybe to yours, in the sense that he had the gig with Mandy Moore, bought a house, and all of a sudden the next day, more or less, it's like, yeah, we no longer require your services. And
yeah.
People hear, oh yeah, you get the gig with Kelly Osbourne, they think you've made it, but really, you're a hired gun in a sense, correct?
I mean, that's really just the beginnings. Fortunately, I didn't buy the house.
We squirreled it away.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're not used to that in this podcast. So
yeah. We kind of knew that everything is temporary that is not your own. And we've been fortunate too, because we've always had our own. So the band back home, once people graduated college, they got jobs and stuff. And so the drummer got a great job, and we're like, God bless, go and do your thing. We'll reform and do our thing. But it was really impossible to get people to move to a small town in Louisiana. We had interest, but people just couldn't do that, which is understandable. So that's why we moved out. But so we moved out to reform the band. Really, the reason I did that audition is there was a guy who and I'm sure it's probably the same guy that put Jason Hook with Mandy Moore or whatever. He's the guy that it was a musician referral guy, and he put together all the bands, and he found me through when Limp Bizkit was looking for their guitar player. And he couldn't quite understand that I lived in Louisiana. So he was calling me like every week with like, hey, I got Macy Gray on Friday. Can you come to SIR and get the CD and, be at the audition? I'm like, no, I don't live there, because he couldn't quite understand that LA, Los Angeles wasn't LA, Louisiana.
Right.
So he was calling me. And so finally, when I moved out, I called him up. I was like, hey, Barry, I'm here now. Whatever you got, I'll come do it. Just to finally go to one of the auditions. He's like, great, I got Kelly Osbourne on Wednesday. I was like, I will be there. Fantastic. Did not really think that I was going to be the guy for that gig at all. But yeah, auditioned, got it, and it's been a whirlwind ever since. But yeah, we knew that those things are not temporary. I mean, you are a hired gun, and absolutely love Kelly and the Osbournes. They've been like family. They treat us like family from the beginning, and still do to this day. But everything's temporary. But as long as we have our own thing, that goes as long as we want it to. So that has always been going in the background, and so that's been helpful. So I'm not like all in on a hired gun gig, and then when that call stops, it's like dead in the water. Yep. There's always like a trajectory.
We're making moves in the background so that when he frees up, we're just ready to go off.
Well, so Heather, talk about your thing, because I mean, now I talk to a lot of people. I'm a little bit isolated in terms of where I live, but I'm close to an airport, so I'm I can fly out. But would you be a believer, Heather, that your location might dictate your success, or do you feel that in this day and age you can have success wherever you're at?
I I go back and forth, honestly. I think nowadays it's less important, but I do feel like there were a lot of opportunities for us because we were in LA.
Right.
Like the Kelly Osbourne thing. And then, we always tell the next generation coming up, musicians, have something to fall back on, because you don't want to be making decisions out of desperation. He's like he mentioned, I mean, he turned down so many other things because it was like, it's going to take too much away from our project.
Right.
So been very picky and choosy, but that's because, we both met in art school, and I figured out early on that if I learned how to do web programming, I can do all of our merch, our website. And that led to a career, sitting in the green room, and I'm like building a website for some company in wherever, and I find that because I was in LA, a lot of times I could charge a lot more, and people are like, oh, this girl's in LA, and so it does have some cachet.
Yeah.
For that, it was great. But honestly, I could have been anywhere doing that, and, working on music online while he was out in Europe. So it's, I don't know. I guess I don't really answer your question, because I think it does.
No, you totally did. Because I'm trying to do a comparable, because it's some people get discouraged because they think, okay, my geography totally inhibits me and I'm never going to get anywhere. And then you see some people who have had tremendous success and they still live in their hometown, and they travel a lot and they get to do that thing, but they don't ever pick up and move. So I'm just, I guess, trying to get your opinion on where that happy medium is. And for you, it sounds like you guys being there is probably the right spot for you.
It is. Yeah,
for
it definitely
now.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think that where we're at with social media, anything is possible. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening so much in the early 2000s. Whenever I got the Kelly thing, that I had to be physically there, right? But another guy from back home, North Louisiana, just got the Primus gig, and he was just, I think he mostly got it because he has incredible skill. He's the right guy for the gig, and they auditioned top of the top, and he went through and got it. So I don't think you're inhibited by your geographic locale.
Right.
I mean, we did great back home, but we were touring. I mean, there was a more physical thing.
Right.
I think social media, you can probably, and we grew our audience that way, grassroots, but that's a lot of hard work and takes a lot of time. But you can do that better with social media now, more effectively.
And if someone's like saying, well, I'm stuck in this town, well, the flip side of that is if it's affordable, then you save your money like we did when we were in North Louisiana. And
Right.
then you can choose to go out and do like, tours, or I'm going to go play a bunch of shows in LA for a while. And then I'm going to go play some in New York or Nashville or wherever makes sense for you, because you're able to afford to live somewhere else that's cheaper. And then you can make your big moves, versus struggling in a big town and then you can't afford to do anything.
I think that helped us.
Yeah.
We
Well-
literally Hollywood, just because we thought it was cool, but we also knew that it would give us a little cachet, right? Maybe a little cred. It's like, hey, these guys are playing the Whiskey, they're playing the Troubadour, and playing to big crowds. But it really it gave us cachet, but also grew that network, and that's what was really important. I mean, we have a lot of really strong, good industry friends from just doing that for years too. That helped.
We're going to get back on the true crux of this, but I do feel this is somewhat of a bit of a masterclass for some people that are maybe spinning a little bit, because, I mean, I've never been to Louisiana. I want to go there. I've been to, 45, 46 states. But one of the things that I know in the U.S. is very similar to Canada is the big cities are big, but the small cities are small, right? And that's just the way that it is. One difference that we have here is the hops between cities is a lot bigger, so you're going 12, 13, 14 hours in between. Were you able to, I guess, go out and play fairly regularly and do shows when you were based in Louisiana and not have to worry about not being able to play?
Yeah, we did a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we are road dogs. We love it. We would just hit the road. It's like, hey, we have an opportunity to play in St. Louis. Let's do it. Well, while we're out, we might as well play Chicago. We just would drive and play shows. One note, kind of piggybacking off of what you talked about, that we find is maybe before bands, if they're looking at doing this, we find a lot of success playing the markets just outside of the large city first. Because when you're we used to joke on tour, like we'd go to a big city and we're like, oh, great, the circus is in town. And you're competing against everything else happening in the city.
Competing against the city itself.
Yeah, the city itself. But if you head just outside of the city, you might find a smaller market that they're like so happy that you showed up. And you make these really great fans and they go out and tell their friends. And then at some point they're willing to drive that, however, 35, 45 minutes into the big city to see you, because, that's how a really good way to build
stronger connections.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, and I mean, everybody knows, some people Google it and then some people live it. Like, I mean, I live it, you're living it, but I mean, the music business is just so different now, right? It's just the way everything from how you put music out to how you get it heard to how you play. How do you guys deal with that now? And like, I'm getting the fact you guys are hustlers. You're running your own thing. How do you guys do it?
We take a lot of detours, and sometimes we're like, okay, we got to be more like business minded and follow whatever. And we always end up coming back to follow our gut, be fearless, and have fun. If we're not having fun and we're not just enjoying it, then something's going to miss the mark. Like social media, having to make content and, 30 pieces of content all with the same chorus for like a song you put out. It's kind of draining.
Yeah.
And for a while we were trying academically, okay, we're going to try to do this. This is what all the experts tell you to do. And then I realized, I'm like, why don't we just have fun with it? Just get out there. Yeah, we'll do pieces, but it's not work anymore. It's back to having fun like when we were teenagers. And I find that ends up making the most strides, because for some reason everybody has that bullshit meter, right? And you can sense when someone's having fun and just enjoying it, or when they're doing it because it's what they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. So I want to get to another question, but when I talked to Shauna, so she had in the bullet point the SEAL connection, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, so again, 2020, everybody's shut down, and we were like, all right, we're going to just focus on YouTube.
Yep.
That's what we can do. That's what we have control over. We can't tour right now. And so we just started putting stuff out on YouTube, and it was a lot of fun. And when we I don't know how it happened, but SEAL ended up looking for a guitar player who could also sing vocals and harmonies for his 30th anniversary.
Yeah, that's why he wanted
And
to
so-
make sure that it's he could find players. He didn't want to have a lot of tracks. This is the 30th anniversary world tour. He wanted to make sure that he could find a guitar player that could sing all the parts.
Old school, a real show.
Yeah.
And so he's on YouTube. I don't know how he found us, or it was just like diving down the rabbit hole, but he found our stuff and was just like, that's my guy. And so I was out. It's actually a hilarious story because we talked about that. I'm Cajun. I'm very loud. I talk with my hands and just, and so usually when I'm coming in, I'm like, oh my God, you're never going to guess what happened to me. So I get this text. I'm out running errands, and Matt's like, when you come home, be really quiet. I'm about to be FaceTiming with Seal. And I'm like, kiss from a rose, Seal? He's like, yeah, Seal. So I'm like, well, make sure the camera's not there because I don't look good and I don't want Seal to see me like this, like he cares. But, so yeah, he FaceTime Matt and was just like, no audition necessary. You're my guy. Do you want it? And of course he's like, yeah, I'll take it. So,
can I get back to you?
Right.
Well, and you know what? To that point, Matt, I'd like to ask you something that's maybe a little bit of a side question, but I think you'd have a good answer to this. So there's people that replace original members in bands, and they go out and tour. So Foreigners is a good example. The guy that's doing the Canadian Foreigner dates is a friend of mine. He lives here in my hometown. Mick Jones picked him. Lou Gramm gave him the Lou Gramm blessing, the whole shooting match. But it's like, it's cover band. It's whatever. And my girlfriend, who's an amazing singer, said yes, but if they were presented with the same opportunity, do you think they would not take it? And I would ask you the same thing. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, you get that gig, without an audition. What would you impart on somebody that's looking for gigs like that?
Well, I guess Seal did his due diligence. He saw that I've played at high levels with, big stuff. So, and he looked at all the Dauzat St stuff. He could tell that, I could sing all the parts and play the parts. But I think it's just, I think there's a certain level of professionalism that, I think is at the core of being successful in those sort of gigs.
Right.
Having the talent, there's a lot of guys that have the talent. So it's a lot about like the professionalism, the hang. I think that those things may be more important. The talent, you work on. I think you have to. What I learned through that experience is to get it out there more. I think we're hesitant. We don't mind being on camera, but to turn the camera on us feels weird.
Yeah.
But we need to do that more to get it out there for awareness. That's what got us the Seal gig was that, That's why he got Heather up as well, in the band.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a great, and what you're saying, I think to me is really important because sometimes people think I can be a complete a-hole, but if I'm an amazing player, the world is my oyster, and you just nailed it, right? Because I've seen some international acts, and I go, wow, I know 5 guys that are better than the person that got the gig, but they're a better hang, they're more professional, they show up. So for you to say that is great info. And the other thing that's interesting, and you guys will know this, doing your social media. You do something that you think is completely amazing and it falls on deaf ears, and then some guy finds a potato chip that looks like Richard Nixon and it goes viral, right? And it's just a hit and miss, so you're always kind of struggling for it.
No
right?
idea. Yeah, who knows? You never know. But yeah, I think you just have to. It's all the hang is very important. I mean, I lived with Seal on his tour bus because we were doing TV stuff while the band was going, and so you just have to know how to be cool. And I think that goes a long way because when you tour together, I don't care what level, there's a little bit of a marriage going on there,
Sure.
and anybody with a bad vibe brings the whole camp down.
Yep.
So the hang is really important.
It's a great point. Okay, you know what? Let's talk about your stuff now, because I mean, I saw the presser. You guys are proud of it. You're out there doing your thing. In talking to you and just meeting you, I get the sense that maybe it's put on the back burner a little bit, but it's never gone. So Heather, maybe tell us a little bit about your material and what you guys are doing and what you're looking to tell the world.
We're just looking to put out the kind of music that 70 years after we're gone, someone might find it and go, wow, I get it. This speaks to me. And then again, like we're talking because of our release of Seal's Crazy with the little pigs in the middle. We love to take a song that we react to and then put our spin on it, and we do that live. And so getting it and putting it down for everyone to hear is just really important for us, because not everybody can make it to our shows. But that's kind of how we got started, right? You don't start out with just a ton of original music. Mm-hmm. We got started singing a lot of Alice in Chains, which is where we honed our harmonies, so people will hear that at shows. And Matt had been trying to do Crazy since we were teenagers. He brought it up and the guys were kind of like, I don't know, because we're a rock band.
Too cool for school.
Yeah. And then, every band, like, he would kind of be hired gun in, throw it out there. People, I don't know. And then finally he got to do a Seal and it was like, all right, well, now it's time. Now we get to finally do it. And I'm okay with it. And you're okay with it. Let's do it. But we're just excited about putting out new music for sure.
So what, we covered it a little bit earlier, how different it is now. I'm guessing you guys are independent for the most part.
Yes.
And I'm guessing you want to keep it that way. Everybody knows there's no real, record labels per se anymore. But Matt, what are you guys doing to get your stuff out there, and how are you doing it?
Well, we're using all the traditional, social media. I think it's our thing, which we've been doing. We've been trying to get better at the social media. But yeah, we actually did sign to a label. Our band signed to a label, major label, back in the day, and we did not enjoy that experience.
Yes.
And not saying that that's something we wouldn't do again in the future, but it would really need to be a business partnership instead of like a regular typical deal. So yeah, we're happy to do independent. It's a lot of work. Especially the booking shows. I do all the booking right now. I have some help here and there, but it just takes a lot of time. But we're trying to get someone in to help with that. If we can do that and free ourselves up we really want to try to write, record, and release more music. That's where we're just always feeling a little bit deficient in that area. Obviously, she and I being out with Seal for a full year on that tour, that was you can't hardly write on tours like that.
Yeah.
And but so we're taking this little opportunity right now to try to write and release some stuff, and then we're going to be out the second half of this year. We're going to be booked pretty solid, I believe. It's going to be a busy second half of the year.
So are you able to go back to some of the people that you've worked with and say, hey, listen, will you give me a listen, or give me a plug, or give me or do you do that, or are they open? Because my experience has been, when I meet some people that are, of a certain level, they're always, if you do it in a respectful way, they're always open, they're always honest. Yeah. Are you able to do that?
Yeah, we really are bad about asking for favors or help from bigger industry friends. They're trying to get a little better about that. But I definitely don't want to do it very often. So we'll pick and choose when it's time to do it. But of course, yeah. Kelly has done stuff for us. Seal has done some stuff for us. And
Rick Springfield
for sure has been really, really important for us. Been really helpful. So yeah, Pat Benatar actually too. Yeah. So yeah, we've had some help with that.
So the networking thing, it's funny that you just said that, because you mentioned Rick Springfield, and a friend of mine that's from Phoenix, Arizona, is friends with his drummer. I think, what's his name? Jorge?
Yeah.
Jorge, yeah.
Yeah. And he's from Phoenix.
Yeah.
And there's a whole group of guys that have become very supportive of me in Phoenix, Arizona, that I've never met face to face. But there's a connection that we both have. And what I'm trying to show people is that, hey, be nice, be a good person, because you never know who's gonna spread the word, good, bad, or otherwise, about you.
Rick has been, I would say, instrumental in our trajectory, Dauzat St. Marie's trajectory, because I think probably maybe one of the second or third shows that Dauzat St ever played was with Rick.
Yep.
I believe it was in Reno. And he was doing a solo acoustic. He does some solo acoustic shows. It's a really cool show. And so we opened that show, and we did great that night. And he was just coming off stage. Him and the whole band were just like, it was like applause, standing ovation on the side stage.
Really cool.
He's like, hey, I absolutely love your sound. I love what you guys are doing. And I really enjoy having an opener. So if you ever want to open any of my shows again, just let me know. And I was like, I'll tell you right now, I want to open all of them. He's like,
absolutely.
And so we just started doing, like, we would do Weekend Warrior gigs with him all the time. So I mean, he
really helped, because we were nervous
us,
about making the jump from, a heavier rock band to this acoustic, just the two of us.
Yeah.
It was, the first show was terrifying for me. So rock, you're doing well when it's loud and everybody's into it, and just, that night it was so quiet. I could hear the bartender putting ice in the glasses, and I'm panicking, and he sees my face, and he's like in the middle of a song whispering, no, this is good. Don't worry. This is good.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the exact opposite, and so we made the jump nervously, but then when Rick, like I said, he just was so taking us under his wing, and it just helped launch us. It was great.
That's how we got the Pat Benatar tour. That's how we got this REO Speedwagon tour.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, and this is, it's funny. I was talking about Pat Benatar the other day, and specifically the fact that Neil Girardo, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest hidden gems of a guitar player. And I'm a drummer, but that man
would share that opinion. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Underrated guitar player.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And it's funny, in the REO Speedwagon, obviously, they're still going strong, and it's great to hear those tunes out there. And the other thing about Rick Springfield that is extremely inspirational is how the man ages in reverse. We're going to have to sit down and talk to him about that.
We talked to him about it, and it's infuriating is what it is. It's absolutely infuriating.
That and his work ethic.
Yeah.
He hit when he was like the soap opera and the music career hit at the same time. So he's always known just so much work.
Yeah.
When he said we were doing the Weekend Warrior stuff, we'd come home, we were like, laundry, unpack, relax, and get ready for the next weekend. We come back, and I'm like, wow, the whole video is different. He goes, oh yeah, I did the whole new video background for the thing, and I did this, and check this out. I'm writing this book, and I'm starting this TV series. Maybe I'm like,
dude, settle down.
How do you find the time to do this?
Well,
it's inspiring.
But when somebody wants to come back to him and says, I'm too busy, Rick, it's like, are you really too busy?
Right.
It's inspiring. It makes me feel inferior in my work ethic.
Well, and I'm sure he'd be a great case study in how to, properly time manage. He's probably got people to help him, but I mean, he still has to do it and be willing, right? So
it works, man.
So you mentioned you're going to be playing out quite a bit the last half of this year. And I'm getting the sense from just meeting you guys, I get the whole work ethic thing. I do. You must have some goals. What do you want to see, happen for the second part of the year when you're out? Do you have some things that you go, okay, this is success. If we don't hit it, fine, we'll try again. But what does that look like?
Ooh,
we have a few venues that we're playing that we're just shy of selling out on past runs that we're hoping to sell out. Like
nice.
Blue Jay Listening Room in Jacksonville, Florida. We hope to sell that. It's just one of our favorite venues, listening room venues in the U.S.
Magical. Yeah.
So there's a few like that. We're hitting some festivals in Ohio, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But as far as goals, I would say always to pick up more support slots for bigger artists. Those are always the best for us. It's the best place for us to grow exponentially. We're fine headlining, obviously make a lot more money headlining, but growth is a little slower, which is fine too. But we just got out of the arenas with REO and Rick, and so those are like 6,000 people, and that's we need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question here, kids. Where do I send my viewers to find out more about you guys? Because I'm still trying to figure out how Shauna and I actually connected. I mean, I deal with a lot of PR people, and I'm assuming somebody referred her to me, but and she's a total pro. But how do I get people to find out more about you guys?
I would say the easiest would just be our website, dsm.live. because from there you can hit all the socials that you want. I mean, we're on all of them, but that'll have everything for you: tour dates, music, videos, everything. dsm.live.
Love it. Matt, Heather, I want to thank you guys for doing this. Pleasure. I like to stay in touch with you guys, see how it
Please
goes.
do.
Absolutely, Sean.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see you. Hopefully we get to your neck of the woods at some
Yeah,
point.
that would be a goal, actually. You know, you mentioned
I
goals.
would love that, but you want to do it between the months of May and October.
Yeah, definitely.
Otherwise, we're
Thanks,
struggling.
guys.
Thanks so much, Sean.
We're back after this.